Oi. Very good morning, all. Thank you for joining. We're just going to give it a few more minutes for a few more folks to join, and then we will get started. Just give it one more minute, just to make sure if anyone else wants to join, and then we will get started. Cool. Excellent. I think this is a great time to start. Team, thank you all for joining the second episode, pretty much, of this series going into a bit of a Copilot kind of workshop. I'm Pedro, one of the modern workplace specialists in Giacom. So great to meet you all if I haven't already. Hope you have a great start to the morning already. But yeah, hopefully we can go through a little bit on Copilot for you all. So get started with a little bit of an agenda that we got for you today. So an overview, a little bit on Microsoft 365 Copilot, some of the key capabilities and prompting basics that you do go through with Copilot, and then a bit of the more exciting stuff on the demos. So the Outlook kind of Teams, Excel, chat creation as well, and the infographics. So a lot of different types of things that we'll look through for you all today, as well as a bit more on the plugins, the customizability as well that you do have with the likes of OpenAPI with Copilot, which can be incredibly useful if you're using different applications. Also kind of evaluating kind of customer environments as well, different types of kind of processes there, prerequisites, adoption, resources, some really good promos for you all if you're also kind of massively interested to take on Copilot straight after this session, and a bit of a Q&A at the end. Also to mention, I will re-mention it at the end as well, though we will have a poll for you all if you want to kind of, take that going forward as well. And yeah, we'll get that started. But a little bit of an overview on kind of Copilot and where we're kind of, heading with it. It's kind of interesting to see how technology is massively evolving kind of over the years. And you're seeing kind of this kind of, well, this picture right here of how long it took to kind of reach that 100 million user kind of deficit. We're seeing 16 years for mobile phones. I'm pretty sure my parents are still trying to figure that out. So yeah, probably a lot longer than that. 7 years on the internet as well that you could see there to reach that 100 million user mark, 4.5 years then on Facebook as well, but 2 months on ChatGPT. So you can see kind of how AI is really truly kind of grown massively into the main and how that's being used, of course, for the likes of convenience. The fact is we can pick it up, put it in a prompt in. It's much more easier than even going into Google now and literally typing, going through different pages and cookies. How about we use just basically a bit of a prompt and get the answer we need rather quite quickly. So technology is massively evolving, and especially how this is coming into the space now of the workplace is kind of really, really interesting. But of course, advancing massively with 300 plus product updates, which is always quite nice. 2 times the speed and nearly 3 times the quality, especially with the 5.0 kind of update that's come into effect. Lots of new key changes to make Copilot a lot more kind of faster to get to the points you need, as well with a little bit more of intelligence as well and reasoning that it starts to do now. If you guys have checked out and seen that, so yeah, very interesting to see kind of how that's starting to come through with the likes of everything. But also kind of some really key kind of stats to throw into the mix. About 85% of people already using AI at work. Many of you might be already using it kind of in the workplace right now at the moment for different types of tools. Even back in the day when people, using kind of the likes of Grammarly, that is kind of a form of an AI tool that people would go in and use. So yeah, lots of different things kind of in the mix in terms of AI, specifically ChatGPT and other tools that are being, heavily used kind of in the workplace as well. So kind of an interesting kind of point to kind of make kind of going forward. But I would also mention, if you guys are very much interested to look at some of the most key kind of trends, the Work Trend Index of 2025 is a great place to start. There is so much information here, especially because Microsoft basically do a bit of a report in each and every single fiscal year, surveying over 31,000 people across 31 countries to really kind of analyze different kind of trends across LinkedIn, productivity patterns, and how things are kind of shaped up massively with the likes of AI. Hence, where pretty much a lot of these stats are starting to come through as well. Another very interesting stat, of course, employees are interrupted every 2 minutes. And it's quite interesting, really, because if you've got your phone pretty much next to you as well, and you've got kind of interruptions taking place with that, or maybe you're multitasking with different types of elements through your daily tasks, through Teams, through Outlook, whatever it may be, we are constantly interrupted every single kind of minute, pretty much as well. But yeah, it's interesting to see kind of how that's coming in as a bit of a stat for the actual kind of workplace as well. But going into AI and framing into this picture as well, it's interesting to see kind of where the areas of accelerated AI investment is really taking place over the next 6 to 12 months, heavily on product development, customer service, marketing, also even cybersecurity probably being one of the most prominent ones, especially since everything's hit the market with a lot of those different areas. This is where, of course, AI can be very heavily utilized to kind of be very prominent in those kind of specific areas. It's always quite good and interesting to see kind of how that works. So a little bit more off the stats now, going pretty much more into Copilot in general in terms of how it works, what is it, and how can it be a bit of a benefit to your business as well going forward. So one of the biggest things I love to start with when it comes to Copilot is trust and honesty, because honestly, when it comes to anything of these AI kind of agents and what you get involved with, trust is the biggest piece, and security, because you want that peace of mind. You don't want to be turning into AI or a specific kind of AI agent, and you're going in and utilizing it, but then of course data is being kind of leaked somewhere else. You want to have that peace of mind to ensure that everything is kind of entrusted, especially with your data, and especially if you're working with businesses that are kind of in that legal finance sector as well. It's very important to stay in that kind of ecosystem. So if you're kind of bread and bound with Microsoft and in that kind of ecosystem with the likes of Business Premium, the Defender kind of options as well, it's very much hand in hand when it comes to the likes of Copilot and how that's built into your kind of foundations. So essentially, I love the fact that's literally popped up on the screen. But of course, the three kind of fundamentals are your data is essentially your data in general, right? So of course, it's not going to go anywhere. Of course, it's stayed within as well into those kind of boundaries as well, which is very, very important. And of course, through the use of Copilot, it does stop at your permission boundary. So whenever you're going in and prompting different types of things within the actual search engine, those don't get kind of populated in other kind of areas. It stays within your area. If you're kind of in your permission boundary, if you're going in and typing in something specific, like I'm trying to find Jack's kind of salary, of course, I can't go in and do that because it does stop at your permission boundary. So your data is your data and fundamentally secured within. And of course, one of the most important points here is not used to train foundational AI models, which is quite important, and it's protected by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance and security tools kind of in the main. So that's a really important point as well. If you guys do use the likes of Business Premium, and you've got those Defender kind of attachments as well, then of course the likes of Safe Links is quite an interesting one, because of course when you go in and prompting through Copilot, whatever answer comes through with that as well in terms of a potential link to a website, it's actually going to be protected through the use of Safe Links as well. So it's going to literally go through and analyze that before you go in and click into that URL. So quite interesting to note that how that's quite seamless across the tools in those areas. Now, a great little slide in terms of ROI and kind of return of experience and investments that you do get through the likes of Copilot. I like to put it into these three kind of bucket areas. So speed, quality, and effort. Nice and simple. That is literally the value proposition that you literally get with the likes of Copilot. So of course, speed, you completed tasks at a much more faster rate, and you get a much more kind of an increased kind of output. The fact is that I can literally go through, proofread things with speed, and then the ability to be able to go back on them as well. Then you also have the quality. The quality is absolutely kind of is great, because literally 10 times out of 10 I would literally say I've been a heavy Copilot user, going through and redrafting kind of emails or getting extracting information that I actually do need. The quality of the content is absolutely seamless as well with that, but also increasing creativity. But one key fundamental point that I would also say is that it enables less experienced and skilled workers to achieve success. This is great. We're not all masters of absolutely every single application, the likes of Excel, more advanced type areas as well. And this is where the likes of Copilot can seamlessly fit in to help you kind of achieve your desired goals. So if I'm going in, producing kind of spreadsheets kind of through Excel, and I want to get a little bit more kind of advanced, potentially kind of build out dashboards, this is where you can utilize Copilot for those areas, and we might get a bit of a glimpse of that today as well. But of course, very kind of interesting how you get that quality, but also the effort, reducing kind of mundane tasks. I like to kind of go back to that interruption of every kind of 2 minutes because it's quite an interesting point. We do get interrupted quite frequently with so many different things, but also we're so bogged down with multitasking on so many different projects on a daily, whether it's going through your teams, your outlooks, notifications. It could be absolutely loads of things, and of course, in turn, that increases a form of digital debt. Now, digital debt is kind of obviously when we're multitasking so much and we're doing so much, we're leaving our admin tasks to the very last minute to kind of complete through the day. And sometimes that can eat into our own personal times, especially if we're working from home and having that more of that hybrid kind of lifestyle now. That is kind of a big thing when it comes to digital debt. Now, the likes of kind of where it comes into the likes of effort, how we can reduce that digital debt and that burnout as well through the likes of these kind of AI tools really kind of gives us a better kind of experience in the main when it comes to the workplace. So really quite interesting how it's built out between these three different areas: speed, quality, and effort. But that is the true value that you do get as well when it comes to kind of Copilot, and therefore in turn it kind of accelerates growth, cost savings as well are kind of the main bit of a cost avoidance, and employee retention. People are going to be more satisfied, they're going to be a bit more happier because they can achieve their own things within their own time, and also reducing digital debt, which is kind of a very interesting point to kind of make known as well. So a little bit more going into Copilot, a little bit more about the kind of the architecture as well, which I'm not going to get too technical. I'm quite technical with these kind of situations because I don't want to lose you all. But of course, the basic architecture of Copilot is really quite simple, and that's quite important. Simple is really good. So of course, it all starts with your application. So productivity tool, we'll pick Outlook in this kind of example. In Outlook, when you go into it, of course, you'll have your ribbon front with your bold, italics, and whatnot, and then you'll also have your little Copilot button that you can come in and click in. So when you go in and click into that Copilot button, that's whereby you can go in and literally put in your prompts, and that kind of response and command will go straight into the Microsoft Graph. Now, this is really, really important for those of you who don't know about Microsoft Graph, but essentially the Microsoft Graph is where your data, emails, files, meetings, and chats, everything is stored within. So the beauty is with the actual paid Copilot license, you can go in and literally sift through your prompt is find out different types of information through the Microsoft Graph, through your own data. So of course, if I'm in Outlook and typing in a prompt, asking it to resurface emails and information for a particular topic, it's not just going to look at Outlook. It's going to go beyond Outlook. It could go into Teams. It could go into other areas depending on the topic and what you've asked. So the Microsoft Graph is very, very useful, especially because it's dedicated to Microsoft and Copilot alone. It's not available elsewhere, so it can be quite useful to kind of bear that in mind as well when you're kind of using Copilot or thinking of going on to Copilot as well. Now, once you've kind of gone in and done your prompt and it grounds through, this is what we call kind of web or word kind of grounding in the Microsoft Graph, it then goes into your large language model. Now, the beauty of LLM, kind of a lot of people get lost, is like, what is large language kind of model? But essentially, it's communicating with kind of pretty much the computer a little bit more efficiently. Instead of going in and typing in code, we can simply type in normal standard literature and it will literally give us a response. That is simply the large language kind of model, essentially, that will give us then that prompt as well going forward as well, which is kind of incredibly useful. So once we've gone that through the actual the large language model, it'll then give us that kind of response of what we kind of need dedicated as well. So that essentially, in a nutshell, is how the kind of the Microsoft 365 Copilot architecture is built out from. That is the foundation, which is incredibly simple and brilliant, really kind of in the main. Now, when it comes to licenses and it comes to a bit of a breakdown between what you get, it's between the free and the paid version. So the free version is the Copilot chat for those of you that want to kind of come in and have a look at it as well, because Copilot chat is actually incredibly useful, especially if you guys haven't used Copilot yet and you want to start with it as well. Copilot chat is a great way to kickstart that kind of journey, to give you guys a bit of a kind of an idea of how that kind of works. Now you'll notice, of course, the where it says work grounded, of course, this is where your Microsoft Graph is what we talked about a little bit earlier in the previous slide. This sits in the paid version. So if I'm going in now with a free version, trying to find out different types of information in my actual kind of in my Microsoft Graph, so other areas other than the Outlook or that single email, it won't do that in the free version. So just bearing that in mind as well between kind of the differences between both, but it still gives you a lot more things to play around with as well. But also, probably the more important thing is the personal assistant. The fact is, with the paid version, of course, you do have all of this kind of Copilot button kind of built in natively into those applications as well. So you can come in and use them at free will, which unfortunately the free version doesn't give you that ability. So just bearing in mind kind of some of the key differences that you do get in both. And of course, other different areas like SharePoint Advanced Management. So I don't want to get too kind of taken away by this, but of course, it's just kind of going through kind of how you can, especially if you're deploying Copilot for the first time to a customer, for example, how you can literally utilize kind of advanced management techniques to kind of avoid folks having access to certain different things within kind of SharePoint, so you can restrict kind of access in different ways simply by utilizing this area as well. So it's a good thing to kind of mention between some of the key differences, and also agents, which is what you get kind of a bit more of a free reign when it comes to the paid version, and we'll get onto that momentarily. A little bit more on the free and paid versions, because this is actually quite this is probably a little bit of a better slide for you all to kind of oversee kind of how it kind of is built out. But of course, with the free version, foundational capabilities, web grounding, commercial data protection, pretty much standard. But then of course we get the paid version, we get a lot more obviously with the graph grounding and Studio, which basically is where you build your agents. That's essentially where it's kind of kept as well. But then of course it's these new additional areas where it comes to role specific capabilities. Now this is quite an interesting piece because of course if you guys, and probably a lot of you maybe on this call, are kind of in sales or in service or in finance even, those three areas now, which are role specific capabilities, previously were a paid add-on for Copilot. So you would pay for your paid version of Copilot, and then you would come in and literally buy these additional add-ons specifically for these roles. Now, the beauty is, since October the 1st, pretty much, these are now included within your pack as well. So when you go in and buy a Microsoft 365 Copilot paid license, you'll have to excuse the dollar sign that we've got for this, but of course that's the universal currency with Microsoft. You do get these kind of included as well, which is brilliant because it gives you a little bit more kind of capabilities in those particular kind of areas as well. So for sales, you get a bit more of that pipeline management that you can come in and use. It actually links it with Dynamics if you're using those for CRMs as well. So lots of different things that can be utilized, but also Teams and how that's interlinked with Teams, which I'll show you a bit of a glimpse of how that looks as well. As well as service, which is then basically more of that service kind of attachment that you can have as well for support ticketing, again linked in with Dynamics as well for that kind of efficient service. So you do get those abilities. The one thing that's missed here is actually the finance, which you will also get a bit of a glimpse on. So for those finance gurus kind of on the call as well, the Excel piece is absolutely huge in terms of what it can do for finance. So yeah, if we've got any finance people on the call, that's going to be a very useful one, but that is also kind of included within the pack. So you get all these three kind of additional attachments included as well. Now, pretty much going forward, probably the more interesting part is the demos. So how everything's kind of built out within with Copilot, and what the true value is with the likes of Copilot within these productivity applications. So the very first, of course, is Outlook. So the fact is, this is absolutely brilliant in terms of the fact that you can come into here and you can get kind of a summary immediately in terms of what's been discussed, especially if you've been kind of away, you've been on holiday like myself. I've literally just come back from Dubai. So it's absolutely mental when it comes to the mailbox. So luckily, Copilot could be incredibly useful to really give me the information I need immediately. So a bit of a summary by Copilot, you can get kind of an idea of what's kind of happening, what's changing, what are the key priorities immediately in the summary of an email or an email chain even. which can be incredibly useful straight off the bat to come in and actually see. Now, of course, we can come in and reply, and this is where we can start really kind of seeing Copilot. As I mentioned before, you've got it kind of in a bit more of the ribbon format here. You click into Copilot and you can draft with Copilot, and you can do a bit of a coaching by Copilot. So two cool little modules that you do have. The draft with Copilot is obviously what we're going to see kind of straight off the bat, firstly. So we can come in, we have this little box, and then we can, basically ask Copilot what we want to kind of do and what we need to achieve out of that particular kind of email. So we wanted to draft an email, of course, which accepts kind of the roles and managing inventory kind of manager on that. So we want to go through and kind of give it a bit of an action point as well going forward in terms of what we want and what we need to achieve. So once we've gone in and literally put in our prompt as well, I'm going to fast forward it a little bit more. You also get these little different types of tones and lengths as well kind of included within the actual pack. So you can actually dictate in terms of how you want the tonality and the direction of the prompt to come through. So do you want it a bit more direct? Do you want a bit more neutral, casual, depending on who you're kind of speaking to as well, can be really useful. You can even make it into a poem, which I believe we actually do right momentarily, but also the length of it. Do you want it quite short, medium, and long? Obviously, if you're kind of in sales and you're trying to reach out to someone, obviously trying to keep it short and simple is probably the best way as well going forward. So you can really dictate what you want to do out of it as well. So of course, we're going to go in and generate that kind of draft, and then it's going to come through and kind of do it for us right on the spot, which is really useful. So give that kind of a second to populate, and then it should give it to us immediately. So there you go. So then you get kind of your drafted version of what you've asked it to do kind of through the prompt. So if you're happy with this, you can keep it. So you can literally click keep it, and it'll just basically kind of replace that as well. Or you can ask it to regenerate if you're not really happy with it and you want it to be a little bit more different. Or if you want something specific to change, you can come in and add that as well. So it's very useful in terms of the interface that you can come through back and forth to kind of rejig it if you do need as well. So we're just going to give that kind of a minute to kind of go through. And now, obviously, we've asked it to kind of make it into a poem. I mean, I've probably never done this. If you guys want to go in and do it, fair play. But it's kind of an interesting thing that you can do if you wanted to. You can literally kind of make it into a poem as well. So you can have a lot of fun with the likes of Copilot here in Outlook. Lots of things that you can start coming in and utilizing as well. The one thing I love about this is that the fact is that it's also kind of, it's learned a lot about how I kind of utilize kind of Outlook as well, specifically to certain responses. It's got a bit more of a build out as well in terms of kind of my language and how I use it. So especially if I type in, if we go back into that little box, I usually do kind of actually ask it, make it sound a little bit more like me, and then it'll start understanding kind of how to kind of do that for you too, which is quite useful. Instead of it sounding like a bit more of like a robot, it can be brilliant in that sense too. Now, again, in this way, what we're going to start to do now is also look a little bit on the coaching aspect. So coaching is quite a cool one, because especially if you guys want a bit more of an understanding of how you're emailing back and forth, your kind of target audience, and how is the best way to kind of respond to that kind of audience as well, it can be really useful. So we've gone in and literally drafted an email, and then we've gone in and clicked into Copilot and hit coaching. And basically, it's like our own little coach to go through and kind of analyze insights, tonality, absolutely everything, and give us that kind of idea as well. So instead of us going in and doing that prompt manually, we can actually ask Copilot, what would you recommend I change on that drafted email? So it's going to ask you here kind of obviously different things like reader sentiment. You could be a little bit more formal. Instead of, hey, long time no see, you can, change that into more of a formal kind of perspective as well, if you kind of need to as well, but also kind of being a little bit more kind of, less enthusiastic and friendly if you need to be. So again, it depends on the audience and who you're speaking to. It can be incredibly useful from that piece. So that's essentially what you do get with kind of Copilot and Outlook, which again is really, really useful as well. So going a little bit more forward then from Outlook, we're going to go straight into Teams, which is probably quite an interesting one as well, how the before, during, and after takes place with Teams, because we all use Teams. I did see a lot of those kind of little bots that we had coming into the chat. So this could be a kind of an interesting area for you all to see kind of how Copilot does work kind of in Teams. So the before aspect is really quite cool. So before I kind of jump onto a meeting, I'm getting kind of faced with different types of tabs here as well. So I can literally click into the actual into the calendar kind of invite and actually see the different types of talking points, meeting kind of outcomes, and who's attending, to really give me an idea of kind of what to expect within the actual meeting itself. Now, there is this facilitator kind of icon that we do have here as well, which I might be able to show you a little bit what that looks like, because this actually stems more into the agent verse, also included within your paid version. So it's not going to be anything kind of different at all. It's included because you do get agents included in your paid version, which is quite nice to have. And we'll get into that momentarily. But also kind of general pre-meeting kind of use cases as well. You can come in and start kind of typing different things. What do I need ahead of the meeting? Is there anything I need to kind of prepare beforehand? You can come in and ask it as well. So if there's anything you've missed that you need to go in and utilize for that actual meeting, you can go and do so here and have a bit of a conversation with Copilot to give you that understanding. So the preparation and options beforehand is incredibly useful as well. Now, one of the coolest aspects when it comes to Teams is that you're met with kind of additional things, additional icons as well when it comes to an invitation being sent out to you. So of course, the usual accept, decline, and then of course if you hit the three little buttons you get the tentative option. We're now met with the follow icon. Now the follow icon again is also really quite useful, because say again we cannot, we've got back-to-back meetings, we cannot attend one of the meetings. The beauty is, instead of going in and declining it and kind of being apologetic to the actual respondent, we can literally respond with a follow button. So basically what that means is, even though I'm unable to attend the actual meeting, I can actually follow it. So I can understand what's happening during the actual meeting as well. So there is a bit of a caveat, however, when it comes to the follow button. If you want the full transcription and the recording of the actual session, someone has to go into the actual meeting and manually click on transcribe and record for you to be able to get the full experience of that follow. So even if you click follow, and of course no one kind of goes in to the actual meeting and actually kind of select, record and transcribe, you'll only get a very light summary of what was discussed. It will not be in kind of detail. So I might give you a little bit more to kind of, instead of what you would be if you decline the actual meeting. But yeah, it's incredibly useful if you do get the chance to kind of follow meetings and they are kind of transcribed, because then you get so much out of it. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like momentarily as well. But again, very useful for those that are on holiday, that are missing important meetings, that need to kind of catch up on those too. The other thing is what you do get, what we mentioned a little bit earlier, was the sales attachment. So those add-on licenses that we kind of also kind of get included now with the paid version. This is what it looks like for sales as well. So it basically comes a bit of more of a prompt. So before your meeting, you're kind of faced with this as well, which basically is get ready with your meeting with X, Y, and Z, with a timing, who's kind of joining, what's the kind of the information regarding the actual count. So it gives you a bit of more of a connection with Dynamics as well, or your CRM, depending on which one you're using, which will give you a bit of an overview of what you're kind of facing when you're going into that actual meeting. So yeah, very useful stuff to have on a before aspect, before you're going in and joining in that particular meeting. So yeah, it's the Copilot for Sales card as well. So that's the before and the preparation that you do get. Now we're going to look a little bit more on the during, kind of what, if we're kind of in an existing kind of meeting, what can we do in real time as well? So immediately, of course, with all my meetings, I've got this little Copilot button, which I have right at the top, which is absolutely beautiful. I can come in and click into that and literally ask it many different things as well. So, of course, clarification, recaps on absolutely anything. If I've got, and obviously this does happen to probably quite a lot of people, including myself, if you've got any deliveries coming in, literally kind of at the same time when you're on a meeting, Amazon delivery driver kind of knocks on the door and you have to go and attend to that, and you miss something very important in the actual meeting, that's where kind of Copilot could be also very useful, because obviously I've done that before. It's come back and then ask it to kind of recap the last 5-10 minutes of a conversation that I've missed. So in those kind of instances, Copilot can be absolutely brilliant as well, to kind of utilize in real time. But also the fact is, going back to the sales attachment, it can also give you contextual insights with CRM, real-time kind of summarizations as well, that can be incredibly useful to give you an understanding. If something was mentioned in the actual meeting, how does it compare between different product strengths, weaknesses of a certain thing as well? So you've got so many different things that you can use at the same time, and it's all about probably convenience is what the word I would use for this particular one. Now, when we do go into facilitator, which is kind of a really kind of interesting one that kind of is built out as well, you do have it's built out a little bit differently. Now, instead of you going in and actually typing in prompts to Copilot to ask it to recap, ask it to do different types of things, the agent, which sits in the background of your meeting, will do it for you. It'll go through, give you kind of highlights of what's been discussed. How is it kind of, have we reached the halfway point yet? What was the agenda that was laid out in the very beginning? Are we on all those talking points as well? So it can be a very useful little piece to kind of have, and also kind of also for meeting flow kind of management as well, making sure that you're kind of talking in that exact principle that you kind of need to as well. Can be very, very useful. But what I was going to show you, in fact, is Facilitator and how that looks like, because this is a free agent that's included within your paid pack. So I'll give you this bit of an overview as well of what this looks like right now.
The Facilitator agent works alongside you and your team to help you manage your meetings effortlessly. Facilitator can be activated either when you're scheduling the meeting or during the meeting. To add Facilitator during a meeting, select Turn on Facilitator in the More tab at the top right of the window pane. Facilitator moderates the discussion by using the agenda or identifying the goals set at the beginning of the meeting. At the halfway point and before wrapping up, Facilitator recaps key decisions and open questions, ensuring that important follow-up tasks and details are not overlooked. Throughout the meeting, Facilitator follows along, taking real-time notes and assigning follow-up tasks. Meeting participants can co-author the notes, revise, and add critical details as the meeting progresses. For meetings where attendees have joined from a Microsoft Teams room, the in-room view will automatically adjust to display the real-time notes for those attendees. After the meeting ends, you can easily access the meeting notes in the Recap tab. With Facilitator, your meetings become more productive and focused, leading to better outcomes and enhanced collaboration.
Quite a useful one when it comes to facilitating teams, especially the Teams room one. As you've got lots of different people in the conference room. The fact that they can start taking notes as well through the likes of their phones and scanning that QR code can be very, very useful. So something to look at as well going forward. I think a bit more of a kind of a humorous one as well is the interpreter kind of agent as well, which is actually built in to your Teams when you've got kind of Copilot as well. This is quite a cool one. So yeah, sit back and enjoy this one.
Break down language barriers with the Interpreter agent for more inclusive meetings. Interpreter can be activated during a Teams meeting at any time. Once you've turned on Interpreter, you can choose from 9 different languages for real-time interpretation. You have the option of simulating your voice, or you can choose a preset voice option.
Hi, thank you everyone for joining. Today's session is a quick...
Hola, gracias a todos por unirse. La sesión de hoy es un breve recorrido de avances recientes y herramientas nuevas que estamos lanzando para apoyar el trabajo entre funciones.
Today, I'll be covering a few key updates that impact how we collaborate and where to find.
오늘은 우리가 협업하는 방식과 일상적으로 필요한 자료를 어디에서 찾을 수 있는지에 대해 주요 업데이트를 드리려고 합니다. 이번 세션에서는
Interpreter enables effortless global collaboration, allowing everyone to communicate authentically in meetings.
Do love that choreo, and I need to try that one as well at some point. But it's quite interesting to see and fun to see what you can do with the likes of Copilot, especially on Teams, as well going forward. So the next piece essentially then is going into the likes of the after, which is then the more of the recap. So say, for example, we've clicked the follow button, and then of course someone's actually gone in and manually click the transcribe and the record button. This is what we're going to actually see kind of afterwards as well, which is really quite useful. So essentially kind of coming through the actual main, I'm just going to give this kind of a full on through. You'll have a little kind of notification, Copilot for Sales, your meeting summary is kind of ready, which you can immediately go in and click into, and then it'll give you kind of the full overview as well. So Of course, when we do come into your teams, because you'll get a lot of notification kind of in your teams as well, which you can go in and click into, and this is what it pretty much will look like. So right off the bat, it'll give you that full overview of an interactive chat that you can come in and utilize. If there's any specific questions that you come in and you've actually kind of missed, you can come in and literally come in and use that as well for that particular piece. It can be very useful, again, for those kind of recaps when you do need. And of course, alternatively, you do have the full kind of recording itself, of course, providing someone has gone and recorded that, will give you that full ability to go into the actual meeting as well. So this is kind of what it looks like in real time. We can go straight into the actual recap there on your teams, and then we can start clicking into the actual meeting. So of course you've got the milestones of pretty much of absolutely everyone kind of talking, discussing kind of throughout the actual meeting, similar to Teams kind of premium, if you guys have kind of used that before as well. But of course the biggest kind of difference is the likes of the Copilot button that we do have now as well. So we can come in and click into that, and similar, like I mentioned, you can come in and literally kind of revise different types of action items, and this is more specifically if you've got meetings which are like 3-4 hours long, something crazy, right? And you don't have the time to be able to go through absolutely all of these. So you can obviously kind of utilize kind of Copilot for that effectively. What are the kind of the key priorities of the meeting? What are the key projects? What are the key takeaways that I need to kind of, bear in mind? Was my name mentioned at all in terms of kind of actions? You could do a lot of different things, the likes of this as well. So you get your world's your oyster when it comes to the likes of Teams, but especially in terms of what you can achieve and what you can do. And again, when you do go through and you've seen these little footprints at the very end as well, you can come in and click into those. So if you've asked Copilot a specific thing, and it's given you kind of the answer, you can literally click into those kind of numbered points. It'll take you right to the point on the meeting to kind of review that as well, which is really useful, especially if you need to kind of, recheck something as well. So yeah, Teams is absolutely brilliant. Of course, I use it all the time, but yeah, great place to come in and use that as well. The next piece then is Excel. So a nice little one on kind of how it works with spreadsheets. So if we've got any folks that are kind of using Excel kind of on the call, this is quite useful as well. So I'll keep it quite plain and simple, especially the likes of this example, which basically is like bakery goods from November 24 and December 24, bit of a comparison in terms of each, that we can start to look at kind of discrepancies, but also how they've increased or decreased through that as well. So of course, if your spreadsheet may look way kind of larger than this one in particular as well, but there's a lot we can do with it. So essentially, this is how it may look kind of, from a legacy point of view, very kind of, structured in this way, but very kind of, simple, but a lot to kind of read, especially if the spreadsheet is a lot longer than this too. This is where we can start utilizing likes of formulas, but also conditional formatting. So if you guys haven't heard of conditional formatting before, that's basically coming in and color coding different things as well to give us a bit more of a representative view across certain kind of increments, whether that being kind of over £1,000, for example, or beneath £1,000. So formulas are quite useful because, again, not everyone's going to be able to know each and every one of the formulas, so you can actually learn through this as well. So if there's something you want to calculate through that area of November 24 and December 24, we can start to kind of use that, and it can even insert a column as well for us. So we can either utilize the formula, learn from the formula, or we can literally just insert the column and just go with it with what Copilot says, which obviously is probably what I'm going to do. But very useful stuff, again, instead of trying to kind of go through, researching and finding the formulas, which can be quite complex for some people too. Definitely for me, but useful from this perspective that we can use Copilot as well. Now, when it comes to probably a question for you lot as well, when it comes to kind of Copilot, is that the data has to be in a table in order for it to be recognized, in order to be used and kind of reconciled with Copilot. So that's kind of one thing to bear in mind as well. So when it comes to revenue growth, we can even also insert into pounds as well if we need to give us kind of exactly what those points are, what are those kind of key changes within. But again, it's very kind of monotonous as well, very kind of simple in terms of color. So this is where conditional formatting can be incredibly useful to color code those exact areas of kind of increments that we kind of need to ascertain. So go through and literally give you that kind of that formula to highlight those in red for those less than £1,000. So go through and you can literally kind of apply that as well. So yeah, very useful to kind of give you that element. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to show you kind of what that looks like. So of course, in red, we can see those that have kind of dipped under that kind of ballpark as well. And then vice versa, we can also change into green for those over that kind of that margin that we need as well. So very useful to kind of utilize, especially when it comes to color coding. But also the fact is that if colors don't work for you, there is arrows that you can use as well. So kind of giving you a bit more of an icon set through your spreadsheets, again, is also kind of really easy to the eye, so that you can come in and actually read as well. And even further to this, if you want to go even more, beyond, you can even kind of, actually, put in revenue growth insights as well. So additional things that you can start utilizing within your actual spreadsheets, which are really quite great as well in the main. Now, the other piece to kind of add, if we want to kind of show data insights, but also we want it more into graphed kind of type data, we can start to do that as well, and start to plot into those kind of areas. And then of course we can then utilize that for whatever it is. If you've got a presentation that you guys need to go and deliver, this is where you can start taking some of these insights and using them as well in conversation, which can be absolutely brilliant. And then finally, you can add all the insights into one single grid, so you can get a bit of an overview across absolutely everything that we've kind of researched, what we've done, to give you a bit of a field of view on absolutely everything. So that's kind of a great little piece that you can start to do with Excel, which can be kind of really quite useful, with simply just bakery goods as kind of a bit of an example on that one. And we can even take it a little bit more further with the likes of using kind of a dashboard using kind of Python. So if you, with those kind of more techies kind of out there as well, that want to kind of utilize kind of a bit more of a dashboard type material that gives you real-time data through a graph, you can actually achieve that through here as well, which is absolutely brilliant to kind of use as well. So I'm going to forward that a little bit more further. And as you can see, it starts to work on it as well for you. And then it starts to build that analysis sheet as well. And then we could see that generates the dashboard, running the code itself, which is absolutely brilliant. This is the LLM as well, working kind of in hand, because then otherwise you'd have to try and go in and code it. Copilot's doing that for you, which is absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, you do have your kind of real-time dashboard here as well. That's kind of built out. And, of course, we'll go back now and literally change one of the figures to show you that this is actually working in real time as well. So I'm just going to quickly little fast forward this without hopefully disturbing it too much. Just to give you guys a bit of an overview of how that works as well. So of course, we're going to look at maybe the quantity sold here, and we're going to change that figure now. And you'll see kind of how that changes now on the actual dashboard itself. We'll see it kind of plot up. Yep. And you can see that kind of changing as well. So it's really quite cool to see kind of how you can utilize so many different things respectively, depending on how advanced you want to go within Copilot and in Excel. But you could see kind of how that works as well. Now, flicking back into the finance gurus on the call, this is where we can start to look at kind of multiple different types of invoices as well. Obviously for accountants, going through and kind of analyzing multiple different kind of layers of invoices, looking at discrepancies can be quite monotonous as well, and tedious to kind of get the kind of information. But obviously Copilot now can also come in and be used for this particular kind of scenario. So you can come in and literally look at kind of bank statements as well as a whole, so you can plot all that data within. Now, Copilot for Finance is in preview, of course, but it is included in your pack. So you can still very much go in and use that as well going forward with your paid Copilot version, which is absolutely brilliant. So, of course, we'll come through, we'll reconcile kind of the types of data, invoice, the types of statements that we want to utilize, and it'll start going through some different types of rules. So if we want to kind of come in and add, adjust, change that, we can come in here and do so, which is absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, we can then go into the next phase, which is literally giving us a bit more of a report across all those different types of statements, which is absolutely brilliant in the main. Again, discrepancies will give us kind of a full kind of total across all these different types of areas, as well as areas that we need to kind of overview as well. And if I fast forward it a little bit more, it's also going to give us a bit more of context in terms of the types of areas as well. So it gives you a bit more of literature in terms of those areas that we can include within that reconciliation report as well. So there you go. You've got that full-on report across these different areas and what has been highlighted as a form of discrepancies. Quite useful, especially for the finance teams, because this is a massive time save instead of going through each and every single one of these. So yeah, thought I'd show you guys a little bit more on the Excel piece. So very much more from simple to more advanced. You can definitely go with the likes of Copilot for Excel. Another cool one is PowerPoint. So the PowerPoint version is also really quite useful. The fact is, again, back in the day, we used to spend hours and hours going through presentations. This is where we can literally put in a simple sentence and literally we can literally have a deck built out for us in kind of literally mere minutes, which is absolutely brilliant as well. And also you can utilize, say if you're using a Word document, a PDF, you can include that. And we're actually going to do that right now. We're going to include a document and we're going to literally kind of ask Copilot to literally build this into a deck for us as well. So it starts to go through and literally building out for you, giving you a bit of an outline across each of the talking points as well, which is great. So we can, at this point, we can come in and select which pieces we want to kind of reorder within that order itself, which also is quite good. And then if I fast forward it, we can see it starts to generate those kind of slides for you as well. So it takes about maybe less than a minute for that to kind of generate, which is quite good. And then gives you that piece, something that would take so long to do in the main. You got something kind of working really quite quickly here as well. And once that's kind of built out, you can see it gives you a bit more of a nice little template that you can come in and use. And again, when it comes to templates, if you guys have your own templates that you use as well, you can build that in within Copilot, which is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, it's again saving you time instead of using kind of maybe, if you've got default type templates that you use it, in general, you can build that in too. And of course, all these pictures as well are built in through the likes of Copilot, which is great. And then, yeah, you can literally come in and use that. So there's no copyright or anything like that. It's not brought from the web. It's literally predominantly built through the likes of Copilot as well. You also get speaker notes. Speaker notes are quite, useful again, especially if you're building decks kind of on the fly. You can have those kind of speaker notes built in. So literally will take in what is on the slide as face value, and then literally will create some actual notes for you as well, so you can have that in conversation if you kind of need. And again, if you need a bit of an agenda, if you need anything kind of additional, you can ask Copilot with this little button kind of on the side to kind of come in and create that for you too. Very finally, you also have the designer button. So if you're not kind of fussed with the layout and the design of a specific slide, but you can click the designer button. It'll give you literally different versions of that particular slide as well. Bit of a caveat as well with it, it sometimes doesn't always work, especially if you have created your own slide and you've added so many different things to it. The designer button will turn around and say, sorry, that's not kind of applicable, can't do anything about it. But of course, if you built it through Copilot, then you can, through designer, you can basically change the versions as much as you want, because that's built through Copilot as well. So yeah, just a little bit of a heads up if you come in and start to use that, it might scream no at you when you're trying to do that as well. Very finally, then, of course, it's Copilot Chat. So this is kind of effectively kind of a lot of the more the free version of what you do kind of get as well, in terms of Copilot that you can come in and use. So of course you get your application, so your desktop kind of application that you can come in and use. The key difference, of course, with the free and the paid version, of course, the free version will give you access to the web only. It will not give you access to the work module. So that's kind of an important point to make when it comes to deciphering between which option that is kind of works best for you. Of course, we can only ground web data in the free version. But of course, when it comes to work, we can do a lot more as well, like these kind of things in terms of what's new in my inbox, calendar tomorrow. Instead of going through and clicking into the Outlook, we can use this as a single pane of glass for pretty much all those areas as well, which is absolutely kind of great. You've got prompt galleries that you can come in and build in as well. So maybe you want to go a little bit more kind of specific in terms of your own roles. So you can come in and use that. I've got a bit of a link later on in these kind of slides where you can go into that as well if you have got Copilot just yet, but very useful to see kind of what is useful for your particular area, especially if you want to kind of draft up a prompt for that kind of that specific point. So yeah, quite useful to kind of use as well in that main, and how that's built out through the likes of kind of Copilot Chat as well. So again, gives you kind of the full kind of summaries across each and different each of those areas, depending on what you guys need as well going forward. You can even schedule kind of prompts if you kind of need as well. If you need certain emails summarized at certain points of the start of the week or the ending of the week as well, you can come in and schedule those if needs be as well. So really quite useful to utilize in those scenarios, depending on what works for you going forward as well. So from a day to the week to a month, depending on what you kind of need, you can come in and actually do that as well. So yeah, scheduling kind of prompts are really quite cool. But yeah, lots of things you can do and achieve with Copilot kind of in the actual chat itself. And another really cool kind of point to mention is that we also do have the perspective with, if you guys are making notes through the likes of kind of Copilot, through the likes of your kind of your workbook and your kind of your notepads, and it's quite a tidy piece of information. This is where kind of Copilot can be really quite useful, especially in the chat version, whereby we can take a screenshot of that and literally upload it into the likes of kind of Copilot, and it'll give us a bit more of a rewritten kind of version from text from the actual image itself. Again, really quite great, especially if you're on the road in multiple different types of meetings. You've got that ability as well now. Coming towards the end, this is a creation tool now that's kind of actually built in, which is also available completely free with the free Copilot chat version, as well as the paid version as well, which is good to know. But again, this is where you can come into your Copilot app, desktop application, and you can literally come in and kind of create images similar to the things that you guys might have seen with the likes of ChatGPT and other kind of tools in the market, but really useful because, of course, of how interactive it is with the likes of Copilot. So instead of just being kind of, drafting an actual image or, creating kind of an actual video itself, you can do that. Interaction is probably where the biggest value proposition is for the likes of creation with Copilot. So again, you can come in here and this is where you can start selecting kind of brand templates if you kind of really need to kind of come into them, or brand kits in general. You can start uploading them and using them within. And then, of course, this is where we're going to give you a bit of an example of a bit of more of a kind of an infographic. So I've just basically taken kind of an idea of something from online, asking it to kind of provide some kind of statistics for a specific case study on the climate and tech industry based off a case study that I've actually found online. And what this will do is it will completely kind of prompt you with an infographic that you can come in and click into it, and then kind of use as well, which is absolutely brilliant. Get that to load. You get multiple different types of versions depending on what works for you. And then you can come in and click into them and actually edit them as well. So the edit piece is what I actually love about the infographics, because especially for those in marketing and those specific types of roles as well, this can be quite useful. That you can come in and literally kind of click into those specific areas that you want to come in and change, whether it be in the actual design, whether it be in the actual kind of content. You can come in and do that as well quite effectively. So obviously selecting brand and color, infographic type, and also the size, that kind of is what you're looking to gain on the back end as well. So yeah, the create tab is absolutely brilliant. Even from that, going and creating videos to forms to anything you guys need. Create is absolutely brilliant on that piece as well. Very quickly then on the plugins and customizability, again, extensibility of Copilot is endless. Absolutely tons of stuff that you guys can come in and use as well, going through all different types of different areas that if you want to kind of have that kind of connection, you can do with the Open API or even that actual plugin within those areas. So yeah, lots of things coming through as well with that. I'm going to flick through these areas a little bit quickly, but of course, if you guys are interested and you want to learn a little bit more about the likes of Copilot agents, which steps into a bit more of a different verse, similar to the facilitate agent that we saw in the very beginning with the teams, there are a lot of different agents that you can come in and create. So if you have your own types of ideas that you want to have and use agents for, whether it's kind of, you've got a recipient kind of emailing you and you want kind of a bit of an action plan kind of derived whereby a Copilot agent will literally do that on behalf of you, sending an email back and forth to those particular kind of folks as well. There's a lot of things that you can do through the likes of agents, and there's a spectrum of them from retrieval, task, and autonomous type kind of variants. So depending on how complex you want to go, you can get a lot out of the Copilot kind of verse as well. So if you're interested, let us know, and we can definitely kind of go through this with you a little bit more in person as well. And of course, then a little bit more on the Copilot scenario libraries, resources for you guys to kind of come in and take specific to your roles. If you want to kind of understand kind of how they're built out, how Copilot can be very useful for those particular kind of areas too. But if you are, if you're going to hit that poll later on today and hopefully you hit interested and you want to learn a little bit more about Copilot, I've also got a bit of a top 10 to try first as well with the likes of kind of Copilot, which goes into the prompt gallery. So really giving you a bit of an overview of what to start with first when you're going through with it going forward. Now, very, very finally, in the last few minutes, there are also massive incentives, from a commercial standpoint when it comes to kind of Copilot. And we do have these things called CSP briefings that you guys might have heard about before as well. But if you are, interested to run your own webinar or an in-person event and get incentivized as well, there is a chance to do so as well, up to £1,000. So if you're interested, let us know. and we can kind of dig into a little bit more details of how to kind of achieve that. But that's something on behalf of Giacom that we're kind of proud to kind of utilize as well going forward. But a very nice incentive for you all in terms of how to go in and kind of achieve that as well. But we can literally let you know kind of how that works. Now, going a little bit more forward as well, there are also kind of additional types of savings that you might, especially if you're kind of interested, you want to lock into kind of Copilot. There was kind of a few others back in September kind of ended, unfortunately, but we do have kind of another one with 15% off on Microsoft 365 Copilot for new customers on 10 or more licenses. So it can be very financially feasible as well, especially if you guys want to kind of jump into that. And of course, that does end on the 31st December. So it's a great time to really kind of jump into the shores of Copilot to kind of understand a little bit more about and how that works and how it can be beneficial for your industry. So hopefully this has given you a bit of a good little taster in terms of what it can be used for in different productivity tools as well. And of course, an additional one with 20% if you're kind of going through even 100 plus licenses. So yeah, it can be a big saving, of course, if you're going with a kind of more of a bit more of a kind of a bulk buy, but yeah, all of these promos are available here, and we'll definitely share the deck with you all post this meeting, webinar even as well. And now, of course, I've saved it for the end. We've got, I believe, about literally 5 minutes left until the very end. So hopefully that's all been very useful. But of course, any kind of questions at all? Anything at all in the Q&A? I just want to double check. Jack, have we got anything, mate?
No,
and also, of course,
at the moment.
Yeah. Nothing at all.
Yeah, I've just put the poll in the chat now. So if anyone wants to just put the poll in. So if anyone wants to fill that out, feel more than welcome, and we will get in contact with whatever you reply with.
Brilliant. I think there's no questions at the moment, or some people may potentially type in. That's fine. It's no problem at all. But yeah, hopefully you guys can go in and literally click into one of those polls, and we can literally kind of, follow up with you. If you got any more further questions as well that you want to take offline, feel free to do so, and we can do that. Then we just got an actual message in the chat on Miles Fisher. I missed the part about CP for sales. Is that available standalone, or does it have to be purchased with Dynamics? So the sales attachment, Miles, for that one is basically included with your paid version. So you basically, as soon as you go in and buy the Copilot license, the paid version, you'll have that kind of included for you. So it doesn't have to be purchased with Dynamics. No. But of course, if you are using Dynamics as a CRM, then of course it comes hand in hand with that as well. If you don't have Dynamics, again, it still works with the likes of Teams as well. So yeah, from a sales perspective, it's absolutely huge. Any more questions at all? I think silence is good. Silence is definitely good. But yes, of course, I think any other further questions, team, let us know, and we'll definitely kind of reach out as well with that. Give it just a few more minutes. Also, Miles, I'll send you some more information on that as well if you want, just so that you've got a bit of a breakdown, kind of how that works, just so you have some resources. Cool. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Well, team, I think we've come to the absolute end. Thank you all for joining. Of course, if you still have any more further questions, feel free to drop it onto the poll as well. I'll be able to catch up with all of you. But thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of your day.